Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. My name's Ken, and today I want to talk about this 12-volt air conditioner. I featured it in quite a few videos, but today I want to walk you through some of the reasons I bought it, what the purpose is, and some of the questions that I've gotten online. Now let's turn on first. Pretty simple operations. It's going to fire up. I'm not using a mic today, so you can hear it. I've hooked the decibel meter up, and I show you the footage of the decibel meter. It was running between 60 and 80 decibels. So on the eco mode or on manual with the fan at about 3, so it's got 5 fan speeds, it runs at about 60 decibels. And at high, it runs at about 80. In comparison, I just had this one on and it runs at about 70 something on just normal, so probably the middle of where you want. So that's a Rec Pro air conditioner, 120 volt. What else about this air conditioner? Well, the first thing, and I'll show you footage here, is how I mounted it. I put this in my boat last summer. That's why I bought it. I bought it to put in my boat. And let's come right up front. The cost, I spent almost $400 for it. It's been as low as $250. This is an FGO TOGO brand from Walmart, and it regularly drops down for a day or two per month to about $250, and Walmart does not have shipping cost. So it was fastest to deliver, and the shipping cost is why I bought it. So it's a good deal to buy it. Now it's $429. The cheapest one on Amazon that doesn't charge extra shipping is $422. But the reason I installed it in here is to keep the people sitting here while I'm driving nice and cool, because the cab air conditioner does not cool this at all. This space will heat up to 85 degrees, and this is just meant to assist the cab air conditioner to keep these people here cool. So that's why I installed it in my boat. When I sold my boat last summer and I lived in Virginia, even on a 90-degree day where I was in my boat, it kept the boat cool at 70 degrees. It's a small boat. It's only a 26-foot boat, so it's smaller than like half of this space right here, even with the slide in. So it's not meant to cool a space like this off-grid, so you're going to want to use want to buy something like this for a small space. This is a big space, but it does a great job at just cooling down the passengers while we're driving. So that's why I bought it. That's the reason I bought it, or installed it in here, and that's what it does for us. So when we stop at Cracker Barrel at night, if we're on a long drive, I'm running the generator. I only have 300 amps or 300 watt hour LivePo 4 battery. It's only going to run this for like 6 or 8 hours until it dies. So we're not going to, plus everything else in here. That's not the plan right now. What power does it pull? Well, I've got multiple videos on this thing. When I put it in the boat, I got a 100 amp hour battery as backup. I ran it on a converter, so I converted shore power to 12 volt power. It ran great like that. But in this case, I bought the 100 amp hour battery as a backup, and I decided to run some tests. So now if you're going to buy a LivePo battery, make sure the first test it ran for like an hour and a half, something really bad, because the battery just needed to go all the way down and then recharge with my Walmart charger. So after charging it, I got really good results with it, bringing the boat down from 90 degrees to 70 degrees. It only lasted 2.5 hours. Once I brought the boat down with shore power to 70 degrees and then let this thing run, it ran for over 5 hours, just barely over 5 hours. And on a 300 amp hour battery, you can get at least double that, and this was running at full capacity, so you can run triple that technically. So I would like to run those tests. It'd be great, but I haven't had time to do that yet. But if you go back and look at those videos, the max wattage it'll pull is about 800 watts and 60 amps, and it got up to that when it was working really, really hard, especially earlier. But because of that, you do need some unique things with this. The wiring here that it came with, this came with a little 60 amp fuse, and this is little tiny like 8 gauge wire. So this little wiring was not enough. It got hot when I tested it in the boat, running it at full power. So that I never ran it at full power. I always ran this thing on eco. So that's the sweet spot, so you don't do it. But in this RV, and I'll show you right here, I upgraded to 4 gauge wires. So I started all the way at the unit, I took it apart, went to the connection point, and I installed 4 gauge wires. So those 4 gauge wires come down in this cabinet over here. So there's a second secondary hole in this cabinet here. Comes down behind the air conditioner, right along the roof there is basically a wiring chase. It runs along that wiring chase, and then in this cabinet back here there's another wiring chase. It runs down and then it runs underneath the refrigerator back here. So under the refrigerator is the inverter, and that inverter already had 2 gauge wires coming directly from the battery. So my battery, I have a 300 amp hour battery that I installed recently on this. That 300 amp hour battery has a 200 amp BMS, so I installed a 200 amp fuse directly on the hot side of that, the hot lead of the battery. Then it goes to a bus bar. That bus bar goes to a circuit breaker that's 150 amps that this inverter already had. That cabling comes up to the bus bar. On the terminal that goes to the air conditioner, I have an additional 100 amp fuse. So that 100 amp fuse is what is between the wire, the battery, and this. Well, you have 200 amp fuse, 150 amp breaker, and a 100 amp fuse that goes from the bus bar up to the air conditioner. Before I had the Liveaboard lithium battery, we had 2 lead acid batteries. They would drop too low in voltage for this to consistently run, but the alternator would take over and it would run just fine. We drove all the way to Florida and back, mostly running this with the alternator, and it ran just fine. We just went recently to South Carolina, to Charleston, and the Liveaboard batteries ran it even better. So it does a great job at running while you're driving down the road, and it doesn't consume a lot of power. So it does really well on battery power. So that 800 watts max when I did that test, and the 60 amps is when it's working as hard as it can to cool. It'll come down to less than 100 watts and just a few amps when the fan's running and it's waiting for the thermostat to tell it to kick back on, and it would average much lower than that, probably I think like 315 amps, and ran consistent when I got 5 hours out of it on the lithium battery. It's been nice, and those are some of the big questions that I've gotten were about the fuses and wiring. And yes, the first test I ran, and in my boat I ran the small wires. The manufacturer actually says just buy more of this and run it longer, which is just don't do that. You want to upgrade to the 4 gauge wiring, and don't even consider the wiring that comes with this thing. So that's important. They talk about the fuses. Someone said, and I showed that this does come with a 60 amp fuse. It's just a piece of metal, and it gets smaller in the middle. Someone said, hey, run a 10 amp fuse. No, you can't. It'll blow immediately. You won't be able to run this at all. So like I've upgraded to 100, but this came with a 60 amp fuse. So you want to make sure your fusing is correct and you're not causing a fire. You're installing it right at the lugs, all of those things. So I did want to walk through. Someone did ask to walk through the full operation, and the full operation is really simple. You've got controls on the remote, and you can see the fan up and down on the remote. You can see the temperature up and down on the remote. The mode button, and the mode just switches between fan, manual, eco, and like max power. I call it Hercules, but it just has those 4 settings. And then you can turn off the display with the light button. You can just, this eco button here on the top of the remote goes back and forth from eco to max speed, and then the battery will show you what the battery voltage is. So it's a very simple remote, very simple operations. If someone else is having a problem and it's not working that simply, you may need to contact the manufacturer because you may have something faulty in the unit, not necessarily the remote, but that could definitely be a problem. But this one works just fine. The quirk is that it's in Celsius, since this is a Chinese model. But overall, if there's any more questions, let me know. Like I said, I've tested this thoroughly. You can look at those other videos and see how much stress I put on it, how I installed it in the boat, and then how I installed it here. The boat, I didn't have anywhere to put it, so the cables ran outside of the cabin into the cockpit area that's open. It's not an enclosed cockpit. It just sat on the seat. But here it's mounted to the roof, so that mounting is very unique because those cables are nice and long. But I'm in the process of replacing it with a roof mounted system, so that video should be out next week, and it's going to be good. So we'll test it, compare it to this one with the noise, with the power, everything it does. We'll see. We'll put it to the test, and we'll run it on some batteries as well. So we're showing between 70 and 80 decibels I'm not using a microphone, so you can see this. Now the controversy here is how it's mounted. You can see that it's mounted horizontally and not vertically. Now, obviously it seems like it should be mounted vertically, and in all the pictures it looks like it's mounted vertically, but there's nothing that I can find that says you shouldn't mount it horizontally. So I've mounted it horizontally and it's been running just fine. So this is how I installed it with the wiring and the hoses. But as you can see also, it's got basically an automotive style compressor with a 12-volt motor on it. And that compressor and 12-volt motor is already laying, so whether it's on its side like this or it's upright, it's still laying horizontally, the motor itself. So it's just how the fluid runs through the coil, the evaporator, the condenser. Why am I saying them both at the same time? But that's the only thing that I think would be an issue. But I've had no problems. Like I said, on the boat over there, it sat at a 40-degree angle, 30-degree angle on the seat the whole winter, or the whole summer. So it was just fine. So it wasn't completely horizontal or vertical, but it wasn't completely vertical. So it is what it was over on that. But as you can see, it's got some pretty long cables, and I left most of the cabling outside of the unit. So that's something to deal with. This big patch here, this used to be the old school antenna. So the old school antenna was up here. That's where I made the hole. So I'm just gonna have to replace this when I replace it. But this is where my wires come in at, and this is gonna stay the same. When I install the new unit, I'm just gonna reuse these wires and I'm gonna install it how it needs to be installed. But my conclusion is that this is a worthwhile unit for the price, especially when it drops down to 250 bucks. It is absolutely worth it if you can install it in this mini split setup. If you've got a way to install it, if you've got a van, if you've got a truck, if you've got a pop-up camper or something else and you need to run this, it's a great unit. It doesn't pull a whole lot of power. The compressor itself, it looks just like a car, so you charge it with everything you do for a car. You charge it with R134A automotive. When you install it, all you need is a vacuum pump and the gauges. So I hooked up the vacuum pump and I hooked up the gauges, and then I just used the bottle and hooked it back up to the low side pressure and just pumped it in with the bottle as it ran. So just like the one you buy at AutoZone. So all you have to do is go to the auto parts store, rent the pump and the gauges, and you can go return them and get your money back. So it's very simple. If you're moving around like me, you do have to take precautions. I have a tank and an evacuator to get that out, so I'm moving around. But it's absolutely worth it for this. What do I wish I had? I knew. What did other people brought up? Other people absolutely brought up 24 volts. A 24 volt or 48 volt system is definitely better. Yes, you can run smaller wires if you can afford the batteries. It's not much more to just step up to the same capacity, 24 versus a 12 volt. So you're only spending a nominal to most people, some people, amount, but it's going to run more efficiently. You're going to have more voltage. They're typically even higher BTUs. This one's only 10,000 BTUs, which they say usable is like 6 or 7. So you're going to have, that's going to be better and easier for you, especially when running wires. Solar, if you want to run solar, I've got 200 watts of solar on this. It doesn't really help much. The solar, when this thing's sitting, the solar charges the battery. It's got just enough solar to power the lights in here, and that's about it. So if you disconnect the battery, the lights will actually still work. That's about it. Nothing else will really work in here. That solar it's like a 10 amps. It's a small Victron unit. 15 amps I think is the max it charges at. So it's really not giving a lot. It's just helping the battery. And like I said, when this thing's off, it tops the battery up after a couple of days. So if you want to run this on solar, you're going to need at least 1200 watts. So 1200 watts of solar and a charge controller that's going to give you at least 80 amps. So 65 to 80 amp charge controller is what you're going to need to power something like this and almost make it continuous. And maybe in the very near future, I'll buy a couple more solar panels and I'll move this thing over to my shed and see if I can't keep it running forever on my shed. So if you want to see that video, let me know in the comments, and in the next couple months that'll be one of my next projects. But again, the price right around 400 bucks is what you're looking at. The cheapest ceiling unit I found on Walmart is about 500 bucks. This does not come with heat. Some of those do come with heat. But yeah, it's been a good unit. The price is what beat everything else. I didn't have a lot of money to spend. It was very unique in how I installed it in the boat. That it's a Bayliner cabin cruiser. Is a very unique boat. Not necessarily unique, just it's not designed to put an air conditioner somewhere. It's not designed to put a mini split somewhere. It's got the cruise air AC inside the boat that pulls water from lake, river, ocean, whatever, runs it through. That cools the condenser and the coils, and it's got that, but it's extremely inefficient. So I had that and a portable air conditioner that still wasn't barely keeping me down at 70 degrees. And this thing, I was waking up at 64 degrees every day with this by itself. Total game changer. But this rooftop AC is going to be a total game changer. That'll be a theme in my next video, game changer, because apparently everybody likes the game changer air conditioner. But hopefully I answered all the questions. I explained thoroughly why I connected this air conditioner, and I wasn't too boring and too long-winded. Try to give you exactly the information you need as you need it. But thanks guys for watching. Like, subscribe, comment, hit the bell. Stay tuned for my next video, because the 12-volt air conditioner that's going in here is not a country mod, it's not an Auto-Equip, it's not a Gidrox, it's not a Vivor. It's brand new, as far as I can tell. No one else has made any videos on it. Unit. So extremely energy efficient, and we're going to get some good testing on it and see if that unit can outperform this one in every way. So thanks for watching guys. Catch you on the next one.